All right, we all know Kyrie's obviously in a fantastic situation being in Boston. They're an incredible team. But should he test free agency this summer?
Hell no. He's saying now exactly what he should have said a couple months ago when he seemed to leave the door open to leaving. And by the way, I hate the Celtics. I grew up a Knicks fan. I'm now a Lakers fan. I spent time in L.A. Get rid of the Knicks. Goodbye. But the Celtics? I hate this. It gives me no joy. It gives me no pleasure to say this. However, Kyrie Irving is the best player on the best team in the conference, maybe in the world, with the best GM in the NBA, with the most assets, including draft picks going forward, on the deepest team. Who can give him the most money? What am I missing here? That is the Kyrie response I expected months ago. He's absolutely right. You think of that starting five. You think of the bench. I assume he'll be offered a supermax extension. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this isn't the NFL where there's a hard cap. This is a soft cap. So once you're already on the team, they can grandfather your contract up and you can make it. So if you're getting paid the most money to be the best player on the best team with the best GM for a legacy franchise in the weaker conference, what? Am I missing something?
Yes, you are. But there's no surprise there when it comes to basketball. Listen on a couple of levels. Number one, we're talking about Danny Ainge here. Somebody that you have religiously recognized as arguably the best GM in all of basketball, president of basketball operations to be exact. Danny Ainge is the best. He's done a phenomenal job, and he deserves our respect. But in the process of all of that, one of the things that he's done is he's lived by the credo of Max Kellerman, where you know what, you trade early, not late. And the reality is that when you look at the pieces that you have around you with the Boston Celtics, or Hayward coming back, a Jason Tatum, who will probably end up being the best rookie of last year's class. This kid has got superstar written.
They're going to run the offense through him before too long.
This young man is special. Jason Tatum is something to behold. Let's recognize that. Let's also recognize that Jaylen Brown can ball too. And you have height, you have athleticism, you have toughness, you have defensive tenacity, you have all of those things. When you combine that with Terry Rozier's coming out party, don't make no mistake, he's no Kyrie. Kyrie is something to behold. He is something special. But we're talking about Danny Ainge here. So we can't assume that Danny Ainge is going to take care of Kyrie Irving. We believe he will, but we cannot assume that with the other parts that you have around you. If he's offering him the max, if he's saying that you're our franchise player, if he's willing to add a no-trade clause, then you have a point. But the fact of the matter is we're talking about Danny Ainge here, and usually he positions himself with that kind of leverage. Also remember the fact that one of the forms of trepidation that they may have is that when it comes to Kyrie Irving, there's always been questions about those knees. And when you combine that with Danny Ainge's willingness to trade early instead of trade late, of course Kyrie Irving should test free agency. Of course he should sit out there and go like this, I want to stay. But let me make sure that I remind these folks about how valuable I am, because you know what, whether it's the Knicks or anybody else who cannot offer him as much as the Boston Celtics, no doubt. But let me make sure everyone knows what my value is, so when I make the choice, it's a solid choice. It's not a choice that empowers Danny Ainge. It empowers me, because if you can't have it both ways. I'm not saying you're doing this, but we constantly applaud what impact LeBron James has had on this league in terms of empowering players and positioning them to sit up there and take control of their own future. Well, everything that Kyrie pointed to, that's nice if he exercises that by opting to be a free agent. If he doesn't do so, you hand the power to Danny Ainge, and that's not in his best interest.
You're making very good points. I presume that Kyrie's people, you know, their people call them people.
Jeff Wexler.
We'll call Danny Ainge's people, if not Danny Ainge directly, and be like, look, we're going to need certain protections. These are the things we're going to need. If it comes back, then of course you have to go get leverage. But I'm assuming he's not going to have to go get leverage.
Well, what I'm saying to you is you can't assume that while in the same breath praising Danny Ainge until the cows come home about how he continuously positions himself and the Celtics to have the leverage. I'm saying it doesn't vibe with what you're saying about Kyrie.
This is what
That's all I'm saying.
The good point you're bringing up is that part of what makes Danny Ainge a great GM is he sees the players as commodities. I mean, you want to have relationships and all these things, and supposedly that was the case with Isaiah Thomas. Then he got moved out, and that was the right move. So you're saying, hey, Kyrie, don't allow yourself, and he won't, to be treated like a commodity, which is precisely what a great GM does. And the irony is that's part of what makes the Celtics attractive. They have a great GM, so the team will always be good. If Kyrie can't get max deal and certain protections against being treated like a commodity from Danny Ainge, he has to go get leverage. I don't think he's going to have to.
Only last sentence. We both recognize Kyrie Irving is a superstar. This brother is special. Do you understand that the Boston Celtics are going to the conference finals with or without him? They're going to the conference finals with or without him.
Yeah, but they might beat the Warriors with him.
I understand that. But they're going to the conference finals with or without him. I'm telling you, that is the leverage that Danny Ainge may try and have. It is the leverage Kyrie Irving must not allow him to have. And that's how you test free agency.